The day began in chaos when the alarm clock failed to rouse both my wife and me due to a power outage overnight. We scrambled to get ready for work, though my schedule afforded me a bit more leeway with a 9:30 am start time and a mere 20-minute commute. Usually, my wife takes a moment to check her email before heading out, but in her rush, she left her computer on. As I went to shut it down, I noticed an email from a few days prior with the subject line, "Aloha to a great time." Curiosity piqued, I opened it only to discover plans for my wife to jet off to Hawaii with another man while I was away on a 3-week business trip. This revelation hit me like a punch to the gut, not just personally, but also in terms of my professional commitments. Let me provide some context. Sophia, my wife, and I were introduced over 13 years ago by mutual friends who saw common ground in our shared interests in fitness and healthy living. She, a yoga instructor and personal trainer, and I navigating the marketing world in pursuit of bigger dreams for the mid-sized company I'd worked for. Outdoors was my sanctuary. Hiking, mountain biking, running, you name it, I relished it. Our connection wasn't just superficial. We bonded over shared passions and looked the part of a power couple. Sophia boasted long, flowing brown hair, captivating brown eyes, and undoubtedly a stunning physique. I sported blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and an athletic frame. Was it love at first sight? No, but our friendship blossomed into something more over time. After a couple of years, we exchanged vows, and for the longest time, I believed in the happiness of our union. However, that perception shattered upon reading the damning email. It appeared that this guy, James, had been orchestrating a romantic escapade with Sophia for some time. She was well aware of my imminent business trip, a pivotal opportunity for both me and the company. 3 weeks away, collaborating with associates to secure substantial accounts promised a potential promotion and salary increase. Yet, as I stared at that email, those aspirations faded into insignificance. I delved into her inbox, searching for clues about this James character. Conveniently, she had neatly stored all their correspondence in a folder labeled Trips. Sophia's lack of tech savvy worked in my favor. My familiarity with computers proved invaluable. It became painfully apparent that she had been entangled with this individual for the past 5 months. Yet, I couldn't pinpoint any glaring signs of discontent. Our intimacy thrived, and we genuinely enjoyed each other's company. What drove her into the arms of another man? My mind whirled with questions as I prepared to head to work. Before leaving, I made sure to copy all the incriminating emails onto a thumb drive for further scrutiny. Perhaps unraveling the contents would shed light on James and provide insight into Sophia's motivations. With her computer powered down, I hurried off to work, consumed by thoughts of her and this enigmatic James. As the shock of the discovery began to ebb, anger surged within me, igniting a desire for revenge of monumental proportions. Violence and vengeance weren't traits I typically embraced, but this betrayal transcended my usual principles. Forgiveness seemed an impossibility in the face of such infidelity. Questions about the origins of their affair briefly flitted through my mind, but I swiftly dismissed them. What consumed me was uncovering more about James and orchestrating a downfall that would leave both him and Sophia reeling. Death or serious harm held a fleeting appeal, yet my aim wasn't physical harm. Instead, I envisioned a scenario where public humiliation became their unwelcome companion. With 5 weeks ahead of me, I barricaded myself in my office upon arrival at work, determined to strategize. Gathering information became my priority, not just about James, but also the intricate details of their planned excursion. Gradually, an idea began to take shape, offering a way to sabotage their trip before it even commenced, exposing their affair for all to see. Admittedly, I couldn't deny the riskiness of my plan, but the satisfaction of seeing her face the consequences outweighed any apprehension. Throughout the day, I managed to attend to some actual work amidst my contemplation of the scheme. As evening approached, my mind remained fixated on the impending execution. For over an hour after hours, I remained holed up in my office, meticulously outlining the necessary steps and potential hazards of my endeavor. The realization of the potential repercussions loomed large. Involvement in such a scheme could spell legal consequences, even jail time. Yet, I deemed the risk acceptable in light of the intended outcome. Gathering further intelligence on James necessitated access to Sophia's email and computer. Initially, I entertained the idea of procuring software online to breach her passwords discreetly, but quickly dismissed it. Leaving behind any digital traces would only imperil the success of my plan. I couldn't afford to have my involvement traced back to me in the event of an investigation. With utmost caution, I deliberated on alternative methods to obtain the required information without a trace, ensuring my hands remained untainted by any incriminating evidence. Over the next few days, I meticulously set my plan in motion. I made discreet purchases of several throwaway cell phones from various out-of-town stores, all transactions conducted in cash. Additionally, I acquired a compact laptop for use in locations with free Wi-Fi, ensuring my activities remained untraceable to both my workplace and home. To bolster surveillance, I invested in wireless video cameras and bugs to strategically place around the house, harboring the grim hope of capturing evidence of her infidelity. The mere notion of her engaging in extramarital escapades sent shivers down my spine, yet I clung to the prospect of gathering crucial information about their rendezvous. As time elapsed, I endeavored to maintain a facade of normalcy in my interactions with my wife, concealing any suspicion of my awareness of her affair. Admittedly, feigning indifference was a challenging charade, but as weeks passed, it became second nature to mask my inner turmoil behind a guise of affectionate smiles. In those moments, while outwardly appearing serene, my mind churned with thoughts of her entanglement with another man. Perhaps I possessed a knack for deception. Perhaps I had missed my calling as an actor. During this period, I took precautions to reach out to old acquaintances using one of the disposable phones I had acquired, ensuring there would be no traceable link back to me or the individuals I contacted. My initial call was to a college friend, William, with whom I hadn't spoken since our graduation over 13 years ago. William had been quite the party animal back in our college days, always the go-to guy for livening up an evening. "Hey William, it's Anthony. How have you been, man?" Initially, William seemed to draw a blank, but after a bit of prompting about our college escapades, recognition dawned. "Anthony, yeah, now I remember. Boy, those were the days, my friend. What have you been up to?" I offered him a brief overview of my life post-college, and in turn, he shared that things hadn't quite panned out as he had hoped, though he was managing all right. "So, what's the occasion for your call?" It wasn't merely a stroll down memory lane that prompted my outreach. Careful in my approach, I suggested meeting in person to discuss matters further. "Look, I could use some assistance, and I was hoping you might be able to provide it. How about we catch up over lunch and chat about it? What do you say?" There was a moment of hesitation before he responded, "Sure thing, anything for an old college buddy." We arranged to meet at a location far removed from my workplace, but conveniently close to his in a few days' time. With time ticking away, I was earnestly banking on his assistance, unsure of anyone else I could turn to for help. Meanwhile, I strategically placed cameras and bugs in both the bedroom and living room, anticipating those areas to be prime spots for their discussions and other activities. In the initial week following their installation, the surveillance yielded no significant findings. I speculated that perhaps they rendered vows at James's place, deeming it too risky to engage in their escapades at our home. However, the subsequent week presented a starkly different narrative. It appeared that she had indeed brought James to our residence one late morning, indulging in a marathon of intimate encounters spanning over 3 hours. While the sight turned my stomach, I forced myself to endure it, driven by the need to glean any pertinent information they might inadvertently reveal. Yet, their interactions yielded nothing of substance. However, in the following week's review of the footage, I struck gold. Although they returned to our home, their purpose this time was not carnal. Instead, they discussed their impending trip, unwittingly divulging crucial details such as their flight number and departure time. As I eavesdropped on their conversation, the palpable excitement in my wife's voice soaked the flames of my fury. Though thoughts of violence briefly crossed my mind, I swiftly dismissed them. I craved a different form of retribution, one that would condemn them to a lifetime of anguish. This revenge would transcend the present moment, haunting them until their dying breaths. In my mind's eye, I envisioned a scene years down the line, my soon-to-be ex-wife, aged and frail, lying on her deathbed. I would enter the room, wearing a victorious smile, and whisper in her ear how I had sabotaged her dream trip to Hawaii. With a triumphant gaze, I would bid her farewell, leaving her to grapple with the weight of my betrayal. This resolve only strengthened my determination to see my plan through to fruition. Yet, there remained one final task, one more risk to undertake. I unearthed information about James, discovering that he and my wife shared the same workplace as personal trainers at a health club. It became apparent that he had a reprehensible habit of seducing married women, a habit that was about to meet its bitter end. Living not far from the club, James resided in a modest condo complex. With a day off from work, I fabricated a plausible excuse to my boss, citing personal errands to attend to before our upcoming business trip. Equipped with a digital camera boasting a formidable zoom, I conducted surveillance on his residence for several hours. His condo was unremarkable, a nondescript two-bedroom unit. Judging by the absence of neighbors during the day and the lack of security cameras, it seemed ripe for covert operations. At my meeting with William, nerves gnawed at me as I contemplated broaching the delicate subject. This encounter marked the apex of risk within my plan, yet the potential payoff made it imperative. Spotting William as he entered the restaurant, I motioned him over to my secluded table at the back. The ambience was subdued, with only a handful of patrons scattered throughout the establishment, engrossed in their late lunches. As William approached, he greeted me warmly, remarking on our prolonged absence from each other's lives. Summoning my resolve, I wasted no time in getting to the crux of the matter. "Look, I need your help with something. It's a bit of a sensitive situation," I began, observing the toll that time had taken on William's appearance, reminiscent of a character from The Walking Dead. Aware of the urgency, I hoped fervently that William could provide the assistance I sought. If not, I'd have to explore alternative avenues to acquire what I needed. Starting with reminiscing about our college days, I cautiously steered the conversation toward more pressing matters. The toll of his past partying days was evident on William, aging him well beyond his years. Sensing the urgency, I wasted no time in broaching the topic head-on. "William, the reason I asked you here was to see if you or someone you know could help me with some party favors for a private event I'll be hosting." Handing him a list, I added, "Can you assist me with this? I'm willing to compensate you for your time." Initially taken aback, William's expression soon shifted to one of eager anticipation. "Sure, man, no problem. Sounds like it's going to be an epic party. Think you could extend an invitation to an old college buddy?" Relief washed over me as I nodded in agreement. "Absolutely, just procure what I've listed, and I'll provide the details for the party," I assured him. However, he countered, requesting upfront payment for the items. Prepared for this, I handed him an envelope containing a substantial sum. "Will this suffice?" I inquired. William's eyes widened in disbelief. "Man, you're planning quite the shindig, aren't you? This should more than cover it. When do you need these supplies?" After arranging to meet the following week for the exchange, I provided him with my new cell phone number in case of any complications. With the arrangement settled, we parted ways from the restaurant, each of us harboring our own motivations. With only 2.5 weeks remaining before my trip, the timing couldn't be more critical. My wife and her paramour planned to fly out the day after my departure. My rendezvous with William proved fruitful. He had secured everything I requested. Now the task at hand was to strategically place these items, ensuring they remained hidden until the opportune moment. 4 days prior to my departure, I left work early and inspected my wife's packed suitcase. It was meticulously prepared for her illicit getaway. With a calculated hand, I discreetly concealed a few surprises within, a parting gift for the deceitful witch. Ensuring they were cleverly hidden, I safeguarded against the possibility of discovery upon unpacking and repacking. She wasn't meant to find them, their intended recipient lay elsewhere. The next stage of my plan entailed a riskier endeavor, gaining access to James' abode. Armed with knowledge of his work schedule, infiltration posed no logistical challenge. However, my lack of experience in such matters raised concerns. I equipped myself with a lock-picking set and devoured literature on the subject, courtesy of online purchases. Practice sessions honed my skills, instilling a sense of confidence that this aspect of the plan would unfold smoothly. It was early afternoon, and I informed my boss of my impending long lunch break. Armed with my lock-picking set, I found myself outside James' condo, determined to execute my plan swiftly. To my surprise, the lock yielded to my manipulation in just over a minute, granting me access to his home. Time was of the essence. I aimed to complete my mission and depart unnoticed. Clad in latex gloves, I made a beeline for his bedroom, mirroring the approach I had taken with my wife's suitcase. Inside his packed bag, I discreetly inserted a few travel gifts, ensuring they would leave a lasting impression on their trip. With that task accomplished, I proceeded to the kitchen, where I stumbled upon a can of coffee. Retrieving a mixing bowl from one of the cupboards, I emptied the contents of the coffee can into it. Carefully, I concealed a few packets at the bottom of the can before refilling it with coffee and returning it to its original placement. Every detail meticulously restored, I exited James' residence and made my way home, knowing that one final task remained. A couple of days before my trip, I reached out to a friend who had a cousin working with the TSA at the airport. Armed with the flight details of my wife and James, I needed to discreetly relay this information without revealing its source. I approached my friend with caution, emphasizing the need for secrecy. "Christopher, I have a favor to ask, but you must keep the source of this information confidential," I began, providing him with the flight specifics and James' name, while omitting my wife's identity. Christopher assured me of his discretion, promising to inform his cousin and handle the matter discreetly. Meanwhile, I dismantled and disposed of all surveillance equipment, ensuring no trace remained. I also left a few surprises hidden in Sophia's car to add to her discomfort. The day before my trip arrived, I decided to indulge in a bit of mischief at my wife's expense. Returning home from work, I entered the house, feigning a demeanor of distress. My wife glanced at me with concern, sensing something amiss. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" she inquired. With a calculated air of mock anger, I replied, "Well, the clients we were supposed to meet just cancelled the meetings. So now it seems I won't be going on that trip, and the company won't get the opportunity to grow." I observed the shock and trepidation flicker across her face, confirming my suspicions that she was plotting a way for me to proceed with the trip so she and James could enjoy their escapade in Hawaii. "Can't they still send you anyway and try to salvage things with those clients? After all the time and effort your team has invested in this project, it would be a shame to see it all go to waste," she suggested, her words igniting a flame of fury within me. How dare she speak of shame when she herself had none? Suppressing my rage, I chuckled and reassured her, "Just teasing you, honey. The trip is still on. Don't worry." Relief washed over her face, and she smiled. "You had me going there for a second. So, are you all packed?" she asked. "Yeah, just need to add a few items to my carry-on, and I'll be ready to go," I replied. "Will you miss me while I'm gone? Have anything planned? A girls' night out, perhaps?" I inquired. She responded with a dismissive shake of her head. "No, nothing like that. I'll just be here, eagerly awaiting the return of my loving husband," she said with a hint of sarcasm, nearly prompting laughter from me if it weren't for the simmering anger beneath the surface. The following day, my wife drove me to the airport and bid me farewell. As we shared a lingering, passionate kiss, my hand caressed her curves, savoring the moment, knowing it would be our last. With the gravity of the situation weighing on me, I wanted this kiss to be etched in our memories forever. Upon arrival, I joined the rest of the group and boarded the flight without incident. After landing and settling into the hotel, I made a call to the house using the hotel room phone. Disappointment flooded me as no one answered, prompting me to leave a message. "Honey, I've made a foolish mistake," I began, fabricating a story. I left my phone in the cab and won't be able to reach you until it's returned or replaced. If you need to contact me, leave a message at the front desk, and I'll be sure to return your call later in the evening. It was a deliberate ploy to avoid her calls, as I hadn't forgotten my phone at all. The following day arrived, and I ensured my phone remained off during my day-long meetings with clients to avoid any distractions. Upon returning to my hotel room, I checked for messages, but there were none. I decided to switch on my phone, anticipating communications from my wife or others. To my surprise, there were no messages from my wife or anyone else. I speculated that perhaps they had successfully passed through airport security the day before. The day's meetings proved even more successful than the previous ones, and we wrapped up early, returning to the hotel. Upon entering my room, I discovered several messages awaiting me on the hotel phone. One was from my wife, another from her father, and the third, amusingly, from a DEA agent, which brought a smirk to my face. Curious, I also checked my cell phone and found several messages waiting for me. Playing the messages from the hotel phone, I first listened to my wife's tearful voice. "Baby, it's me. I'm in big trouble, and I really need you. Please come home now, please," she pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. The subsequent message was from my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law. "Anthony, your wife has been trying to reach you. She's been arrested and needs you home now. Please call me when you can," he urged, his tone grave and urgent. The final message on my phone was from a DEA agent named Cain Sanders. He requested a discussion regarding my wife's arrest on drug charges, providing contact details and further instructions. Despite my elation, I concealed my emotions behind a facade of seriousness, mindful of the need to maintain appearances among my co-workers. While everything had unfolded according to plan thus far, I knew I had to preserve the illusion of surprise and shock to deflect suspicion away from myself. The following morning, I reached out to my boss, Ed, explaining that a serious family emergency required my immediate attention, though I refrained from divulging any specifics. Recognizing the urgency, Ed permitted my departure, albeit with a stern reminder to return swiftly to finalize the deals with our clients. Boarding the earliest available flight home, I wasted no time. Upon landing, I retrieved my lost cell phone and promptly dialed my father-in-law, exasperatedly demanding an explanation for the chaos. "I received your message, but I can hardly believe it. Sophia was arrested on drug charges? That doesn't sound like her at all. Where did this happen? Was it at the health club?" I interjected with a sense of urgency, already suspecting the answer. "No, it wasn't at the health club. She was traveling with a friend to Hawaii and got stopped at security where they found illegal drugs on her and her friend," her father explained, his voice tinged with embarrassment. "Wait a minute, just wait," he added hastily. "She told me she'd be home, that she didn't have any plans. Who is this friend she was going to Hawaii with? I bet one of her girlfriends talked her into it and got her into this mess." I speculated, growing increasingly agitated. Her father hesitated for a moment before reluctantly admitting, "I know it wasn't with a friend. The important thing to remember, Anthony, is that she's in trouble and needs your help. She loves you, and I know you love her." I couldn't contain my frustration any longer. "What aren't you telling me, Dad? Who was she traveling with?" I demanded, my voice rising with indignation. There was a pregnant pause before he finally confessed. "She was traveling with a man, James, someone she's been involved with before. He's been arrested again." "So you're telling me that my wife, your daughter, was flying off to Hawaii with another man while I was out working hard to earn a living, and she gets busted for drug possession? Is that what you're telling me?" I retorted, incredulous. "Yes, I'm afraid that's what I'm telling you," he confirmed. Taking a moment to collect my thoughts, I replied, "Okay, I need to talk to her lawyer, this DEA agent, and then I'm going to talk to her. After that, we'll see where we stand. But she better have one hell of an explanation as to why she was about to go to Hawaii with another man and taking drugs with her as well." With that, I abruptly ended the call before he could offer any further explanations. Upon arriving home, I noticed an overwhelming number of messages waiting for me, totaling over 30. With a sense of trepidation, I began to play them back. As anticipated, the first message was from myself, detailing the supposed loss of my cell phone. The subsequent messages were mostly from Sophia, expressing hope that I would check our messages while away on my business trip. There were also several messages from her father, along with messages from her lawyer urgently requesting my contact. I decided to prioritize reaching out to the lawyer, but upon calling, I was informed that he was unavailable at the moment. Instead, I scheduled an appointment for the following morning to discuss the situation. Next, I contacted DEA agent Sanders and arranged to meet him at his downtown office later that afternoon. After quickly freshening up, I made my way downtown, all the while grappling with the lingering concern of whether I had covered my tracks sufficiently to avoid any repercussions. Upon arrival, I found myself in what appeared to be an interrogation room. Agent Sanders entered carrying a folder and greeted me with a remark. "Glad you were able to stop by and see me. I have some questions about your wife that I was hoping you could answer." Agent Sanders began, consulting a folder. "Look, my wife isn't into drugs. As long as I've known her, she has never taken anything illegal. Hell, she doesn't even drink that much. This must all be a big misunderstanding or mistake. She's a yoga instructor, for God's sake. Why would she be doing drugs?" I attempted to convey disbelief, but Agent Sanders remained focused on his task. "People do all sorts of stupid things for all sorts of stupid reasons," he remarked calmly, unmoved by my protestations. "Now, did you know your wife was going to Hawaii with this guy James? She told us he was just a friend, but James said they were going to have a romantic holiday. So do you know this James? Did you know your wife was having an affair? Did you know anything about the drugs?" His penetrating gaze demanded a response. I took a deep breath to compose myself. I didn't know any of it until I talked with my father-in-law this morning, but I still can't believe it. She must have been coerced into doing this. She is too good a person to be involved in anything like this, I asserted, careful not to appear overly dramatic. I knew Agent Sanders was skilled at detecting deception, so I had to tread cautiously. He sighed, his expression somber. "No, I guess you didn't know. Well, I hate to break it to you, but your wife was cheating on you with a drug dealer, no less. Now we've already searched his place and found even more drugs, and soon we'll be searching your home as well. Now you could cooperate and let us into your house, or it wouldn't take long to get a search warrant. Either way, we'll be there soon to do the search," Agent Sanders stated firmly. I knew her lawyer would likely advise against it, but this was self-preservation, and appearing transparent wouldn't hurt my case. Reluctantly, I agreed, and soon found myself back at the house with dozens of DEA and FBI agents, along with a couple of their dogs, coming through every corner. They confiscated a few items, including some pill containers from the medicine cabinet. The following day, during my meeting with Sophia's lawyer, I recounted the events to him. He was visibly displeased. "If you have any more contact with any law enforcement official, I'd want to be there before you answer any questions. Do you understand?" he demanded sternly. I nodded, my frustration growing. "Now let me make something clear to you. I want to know everything that has happened that led to my wife being arrested so far. All I know is that she was about to board a flight to Hawaii with this guy James, and if you or she wants my help, somebody better tell me how this came to be. Do I make myself clear?" I demanded, my frustration evident. "You know, I can't discuss your wife's case with you," the lawyer responded sternly. Fed up, I stormed out of the office. Next, I headed to the jail where she was being held and requested to see her. They led me to a room filled with several other inmates meeting with family or lawyers. The atmosphere was tense, and the metal tables bolted to the floor only added to the institutional feel. I spotted her, dressed in an orange prison jumpsuit, her hair pulled back into a tight, messy ponytail. She looked exhausted, as if she hadn't slept in days. "Oh baby, I'm so glad you're here," she cried as she approached. I was about to embrace her when a guard intervened, reminding us of the no-contact rule. Seeing her distress only made my heart ache more. "It's okay, baby. We'll get this whole mess sorted out. But right now, I need to hear your side of the story. How did you end up about to fly off to Hawaii with this guy?" I asked, my tone devoid of emotion. Her tears continued to flow. "Anthony, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," she sobbed, her voice breaking. "So if it's true, you were having an affair with this guy, James, this drug dealer. How could you? Weren't you happy with me? Don't you love me? I don't understand this. I mean you and him. Then there are the drugs. What were you thinking?" Her questions hung in the air, unanswered. I waited, knowing she didn't have an answer. Please believe me when I say I've always loved you. This was just a one-time thing. It didn't mean anything to me. Can you please find it in your heart to forgive me?" she pleaded desperately. I looked at her, my heart heavy with betrayal. "I might have found it in my heart to forgive you, but you shattered it into a million pieces, and therefore I have no forgiveness for you. When I leave here, I'll be talking to a divorce lawyer, and all the locks will be changed on the house. I'll have all your clothes and belongings sent to your parents' place, because I want all traces of you removed from my house. As of now, you are no longer part of my life. I want nothing more to do with you. Oh, and tell that lawyer of yours that he'd better not use me as a character witness, because I'll have nothing good to say about you. Goodbye, Sophia. I hope things work out for you," I said, my voice firm. She cried even harder, begging me not to go, insisting she needed me. But I didn't turn around. I just went straight home and started to pack up her belongings. The following day, I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. Then, I arranged for a security company to install their top-of-the-line system at my home within the week. Most of Sophia's belongings were packed and ready to be sent to her parents' house. I ignored several calls from her, refusing to engage. As far as I was concerned, she could go to hell. Returning to work, we successfully signed the big clients we had been pursuing. Soon after, I received my promotion and the accompanying pay raise. Divorcing Sophia was relatively straightforward, with a 50-50 split and no alimony, and she footed the bill for her legal fees from her drug arrest. Despite her attempts to reach out, I wanted distance between us. Sophia never went to trial, as the evidence against her was overwhelming. Her lawyers advised taking a plea deal for a shorter sentence. She was understandably unhappy. On the other hand, James fought tooth and nail to prove his innocence. James received a 13-year sentence, whereas Sophia was sentenced to 4 years. On the day of Sophia's sentencing, she requested to see me one last time before beginning her prison term. Reluctantly, I agreed, and we met at her lawyer's office an hour before her court appearance. Tears filled her eyes as she spoke. "Anthony, I want you to know that James meant nothing to me. It was always you that I loved and will continue to love. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I've caused you. This was never how I wanted things to end. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday," she pleaded. Her words cut deep, and I couldn't help but question her motives. Why did you stray? Did I fail you somehow? Was the allure of wrongdoing what drove you to destroy our marriage? I asked, searching for answers. With a sorrowful expression, she confessed, "I don't really know why. Perhaps it was the thrill of doing something forbidden, but I've always loved you." Her response only fueled my disappointment. "If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have betrayed our trust," I replied sternly. "This will be the last time we speak. I want nothing more to do with you. Spend your time in prison reflecting on the havoc you've wreaked on our lives." As tears streamed down her face once again, I couldn't help but feel a pang of satisfaction, knowing she would face the consequences of her actions behind bars. Over the next few years, the company experienced significant growth, and I steadily climbed the ranks to become a vice president. With our business expanding, we opened an office in New York, and I was selected to lead it. This required selling my house, relocating to Manhattan, and securing an apartment early on. During this time, Sophia had reached out to me through letters, but I returned them unopened. That chapter of my life was one I aimed to leave behind as I moved forward. 6 years had passed, and life in New York treated me well. Remaining single, I enjoyed dating different women every few months, with no intention of tying the knot and risking betrayal again. While seated in my office, I received a call from the lobby. My administrative assistant, Deborah, entered to inform me that a woman named Sophia was downstairs requesting to speak with me. I hesitated momentarily, instructing Deborah to escort her up while ensuring 2 security guards were present. Before her arrival, I handed Deborah a note outlining a task for her to complete and asked her to call me a few minutes after Sophia's arrival. She glanced at the note and nodded before leaving the room. Sophia entered my office, but she appeared significantly older, aging at least 15 years since we last met. Her appearance had deteriorated, and not in a flattering manner. Her once lustrous long brown hair now showed streaks of grey, and her tired eyes bore heavy bags underneath. Though her attire remained stylish, it seemed conservative and somewhat outdated. As I gazed at her, I realized I felt nothing. No love, no hatred, not even pity. Emotionally, I was hollow. "So, Sophia, what brings you here?" I inquired, my tone devoid of any warmth. "Anthony, I was hoping we could talk," she began, her voice tinged with desperation. "I need to clarify what happened to me. I had no knowledge of the drugs, and I still don't know how they ended up in my bags. James must have sneaked them in without my notice. I'm not a drug user and never have been. Please believe me," she pleaded. "Sophia, you destroyed our marriage for a brief affair, rendering our entire relationship a sham. Why should I believe you now? What compelled you to seek me out and spin another tale? You don't understand. I love you. I still love you. I want you back. I want us to be together again," Sophia pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. Just then, the phone on my desk rang, and I answered it, putting it on speaker. "Yes, Deborah, what is it?" I asked. "Aurora called to confirm that you should get 4 tickets for the opening, as her parents are coming into town, and they want to meet you. Let her know that I'll buy 4 tickets. Oh, and find out where her parents are staying. I'd like to send her mother a dozen roses," I instructed, ending the call and turning back to Sophia. "You were saying, Sophia," I prompted, noting her teary-eyed expression. "Who is Aurora? I've been dating for a while, but you're not here to discuss my love life. You were telling me you still love me. I'm flattered, but you should know I do not love you anymore. At the end of the day, your father told me you were arrested and that you were about to fly off to Hawaii with James as soon as your infidelity was exposed. I was done with you," I asserted firmly. "Now please leave, and I never want to see you again. Do you understand me?" I continued, my tone resolute. Sophia looked at me, her expression fraught with sorrow, and began to speak, but I cut her off sharply. "Enough with your lies, Sophia. You were messing around on me. You lied to me then, and you're lying to me now. Just stop it. I don't believe you, and I never will," I declared, my voice firm with resolve. "I think it's time you left, and please don't come back. I've instructed security that if you ever show up here again, to have you arrested. Do I make myself clear?" I concluded, fixing her with a stern gaze. Sophia nodded silently, tears streaming down her face, and quietly left the office. Dear listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.